Hello guys, welcome back to My Club's Fan. And I'm doing another cross multiverse one more time. This time it's NSFW. Okay, so we're dealing with some NSFW fic. So this is amazing. And I know that. So what I'm reading for the NSFW fic will be called Better the Devil You Know. I'm right here. Okay, so the next fic is called Better the Devil You Know. It's a Warlock lands and Demon Key. There's gonna be this involved, there's some possessiveness. Key's not topping, and then Lance bottoming. Alright, I'm gonna read the summary for this one, which is get them up with it. Lance comes from a long line of warlocks. To get their power, they must siphon it from a demon. The power is traded through a deal with said demon, and each demon had different things they ask for. Lance definitely has a favorite demon, and that demon definitely knows what he wants. Hint, it's Lance. And remember, Key is the demon right now, and then Lance is the warlock. Alright, so let's get this NSW one shot kicked in here. Sorry, first I need lights.
Warning, this one-shot is not suitable for those under 18. Listen at your own risk.
Better the devil you know. Lance will be lying if he wasn't nervous. He'd also be lying if he said he wasn't excited. The motions are familiar, muscle memory at this point. The charcoal chalk dusts his fingers as he grips it loosely, making sweeping arcs and jagged lines across his floorboards. Once, years ago, when he had drawn these exact lines, he had been meticulous and slow, brow furrowed in concentration and chalk grip tight, handshaking. But now he's confident in his strokes. He knows them intimately burned into his mind and his heart, sing against his very soul. He lets his hands do what they must, hums gently to himself as he works, trying to settle his buzzing nerves, separately trying to ignore the heat simmering low in his belly. Because he's not a fool, he knows what this means. He knows what this is every time he picks up his chalk and draws his lines, and he'll complain about it. He'll pull it off. He'll whine and scowl and huff. But the fact of the matter is that he won't be here. Kneeling on his bedroom floor, he wasn't certain that he wanted this. Not that he'll meet that admission slip past his lips. His knees ache when they dig into the floorboards, but he uses the sting to keep himself grounded, focused, to keep him from thinking about the subtle and pleasant ache in his backside. The slickness between his cheeks where the oil remains, cool when a drop slips beneath his robes. A constant reminder of what he's done, how low he's sunk, and how he doesn't actually care. Warlocks make deals with demons all the time. It's how they get their power. His family has been doing so for centuries, and Lance is no different. They just usually don't pay the price that Lance pays. Or if they do, they keep it secret, much as Lance does. At first, it had been out of embarrassment and then out of shame. Not his secrecy, his privacy. The hidden and forbidden nature of it adds to the thrill of it all, fuels the heat that simmered beneath his skin and burned in his chest, white hot with anticipation. He lets out shaky breath as the finishes the last line, connecting the circle. The summoning circle is complete, filling up the entire center of his room. Beautiful in a way, familiar, dredging up simple memories that have a wave of head cascading through him. It's a basic circle, really. The exact one his mother taught him when he came out of age and summoned his first demon. Back then, there had been a portion of the circle that remained blank, calling not a specific demon, but offering up an open gate to any who would take up a young warlock on a deal. He had been the one to come that first time, and ever since then, Kate's name has been the one Lance scratches into a circle, written in runes of an age long past and a luggage long forgotten, burdened with the ancient magic that binds them all. It makes the basic circle mean so much more, far more personal, far more intimate, far more beautiful. Lance pushed himself to his feet, taking a moment to breathe, steady and deep, whole flooding greedily, cool air rushing up to remind him that he's achingly empty. He brushes off his knees and adjusts the rope he wears. It's the only thing he wears, woven from the heavy velvet, soft against his bare skin beneath, falling well past the knees. A bright blue sash is tied around his waist, holding his robe close. He sets the chalk aside, brushing the lingering dark dust from his hands. Not that it's very visible. His fingers have long since been stained black from his dabbling with dark magic, the stain creeping along slender digits, nearly to his last knuckle. Is a telltale sign of his dealings with demons, or rather, his dealings with Keith. One day, the markings will rise up his arms. His mother's stain is nearly to her shoulders. His father's already creeping toward his back and crawling up his neck. His grandmother's already reached her heart, and her favorite demon has already claimed her soul. Until then, however, Lance will continue to dabble, as is the way of their people, to seek power, indulge in it, lust for it. Usually it's figuratively, for Lance. He pulls the hood of his robe up, letting it rest at the crown of his head as he turns to fetch a long match. Systematically, he moves above his room, steps light and practice, falling confidently into place as he moves from candle to candle, lighting them as he goes. A low hum vibrates deep in his throat, an ancient chant forming on his tongue, and slipped past his lips in a hushed whisper. He's always seen the summoning as a song, a dance, a strange courtship between warlock and demon, a call to arms, a plea for help, a hand offered and a hand taken, moving together, working together, in symbiotic partnership. He revels in the pre-summoning rituals, in little things, in drawing the curtains and locking the doors, shutting the world away while he lights candles and calls to ancient powers. The floorboards cold against his bare feet, and yet the heat's rising around him. He feels the power building. It's a vibration in the air, a thickness forming, making it harder to breathe, pressing in on him from all sides. A pressure strung tight and taut. His expression builds with it, coiling his chest and vibrating with his chant. When the last candle is lit, he blows out the match, letting it fall as he pulls out the ceremonial dagger from the sash around his waist. It's a dagger the key had given him not too long ago. A gift, promise, question, an answer. He steps up to the summoning castle until his toes nearly touch the outermost curve, and between one breath and the next, he draws the blade across his palm. The sting is familiar, and his wince is reduced to only a twitch beneath his eyes. Blade in one hand, he holds out the other, tilting it so that the blood gathers, ruby red drops glinting in the candlelight as they fall to the floor. His heart hammers as the soft sound of them landing, heat singing in his veins as the blood hisses and sizzles the moment it touches the circle. The summoning sigil flashes, ancient ruins pulsing with light as smoke begins to rise, dark and inky, filling the room with the smell of sulfur, brimstone, and burning blood. Heat emanates from the circle as a portal to hell tears open. Lance closed his eyes against it, practically feeling the flames licking across his cheeks. It's a terrible sound, a roaring and splintering of time and space, until he's left with nothing but eerie sounds. The heat of the flames gone, his skin feels oddly cold. His ears are ringing. Smell lingers, but not nearly as potent. He hears a soft hum, and a familiar voice, low and gravely, whispered with smug amusement. You call for me again. Lance opens his eyes slowly, narrow against the residual sting and small. It dissipates slowly, localized above the summoning circle. At the center stands a man, a demon. Lance Demon, the only one he's ever summoned. Although he's only a couple inches taller than Lance, Keith still towers over him with presence alone. Pale skin shifts over muscles sculpted from marble, as his thighs and just below his arms. Alabaster flesh shifts to black, dark as the obsidian stone that fills their domain, reminiscent of the black marks that Lance people get from dabbling in demon-born magic. Waves of dark hair, silky smooth and unfairly thick, frames his face in gentle waves, shadowing eyes that glisten like amethyst, thick brows, sharp features, pointed ears, a scar that slices up his right cheek, strong broad shoulders, pecs and abs that are absolutely to die for, a narrow waist, sharp hip bones, a dark trail of hair that leads down for his navel to the thick that hangs between his legs. Webbed and scaled wings spread out on him. A tail idly flicks just above the floorboards. Horns like crackling shooting rise from his mane of hair and curl along his head. His slitted pupils are wide as they stare at Lance in the dark room, eyes slitted and lips curled into a small smile, showing a glint of fangs. He's a powerful demon, of that there's no doubt. Only son of one of the queens of hell. Many, if not all, who fear him. And yet Lance feels nothing but the tightening of his gut and the burning of excitement as he takes his breath away. His throat feels dry, and he licks his lips against the heat in the room. He doesn't miss the way Keith's eyes snap down to his mouth. Gives him the confidence to smirk right back. You know, I would. He hums low and appreciative, smile casual and knowing. You always do. He takes several steps forward, bare feet searing against the chalk. He stops just in front of Lance, just within the circle, lips curling wide, chin lifting a fraction, voice rich and simple as he practically purrs. Hello, Lance. Keith. He hopes he sounds playful and low, but despite breathlessness that he allows Keith to catch. Not my name, he says, in their usual back and forth. You'll like it, Lance is bold enough to say, inching forward until he's right on the cusp of the circle. Standing in Keith's shadow, chin tilted up to meet his eyes. You like it because I give it to you. His true name is one that's long, complicated, and near unpronounceable. Layered in the clashing consonants and sharp vowels of his ancient demonic language. Lance can pronounce it, of course, and Warlock with his salt learns the language at a young age, lest they messed up a ritual or spell. But his name is very difficult to say in the throes of passion, and thus Lance came up with the nickname. Keith is a close human equivalent to the first syllable of Keith's true name, and thus it stuck. And Keith has never told him to stop. He looks Lance up and down, dragging his eyes slowly along the rope to his bare feet, a telltale sign that he's bare beneath. He lifts a brow, lips curling as he meets Lance's gaze once more. Used up the power I gave you already? Usually lasts longer. To tease, taunt. Lance's mother always warned that demons were tricky and dangerous, but she never warned him that they could be playful or dangerous like this. But Lance's familiar with this game, with Keith. He knows exactly why he's summoned Keith tonight. He knows exactly what the deal is going to be. He knows where this is going, and he can give as good as he gets. So let's show his role in a nonchalant shrug, head lolling to the side as he smiles. What can I say? I was feeling empty. He sees the subtle and cracks in Keith's expression. His eyes widening, pupils dilating, brows switching, hands flexing at his sides. He hums, low and predatory. I can help with that. I was hoping you would. The usual deal? I wouldn't have it any other way. Keith lifts a hand, reaching forward until his palm presses flat to the invisible barrier, rising off the edge of the circle. And then he waits, eyes dark and hungry as he stares Lance down. Lance only a moment behind, simply admiring him for a few seconds before lifting his own hand, mirroring his position and pressing their palms together with only the barrier between them. He sees the flash in Keith's eyes, a reflection of the glow emanating from his own as the deal is struck. He feels it wind through him, the power of the contract slithering through him, winding around his bones, his lungs, his heart, sealing them together until both ends are met. The calm on his palm heals, his blood burning away in the wake of their agreement. His body shudders, having been trained to recognize this sensation as a precursor to pleasure. Keith's smirk, heavy and heady, tells him that he knows. It takes all Anne's willpower not to look down and still peek at Keith's. Wonder if it's already hardened. Wonder if he's just as effective. Keith licks lips, baring his fangs. Then release me, Warlock. Lance shifts his weight to one foot, reaching out with the other to smudge the line of the circle with his toes, breaking the barrier. And Keith is immediately stepping forward, surging Lance's face, backing him up until he's pressed against the wall. The danger slips from Lance's fingers, clattering to the floor. Keith looming over him, wings spread wide and sealing him in, blocking out the room. Eyes glowing in the shadows, heat rolling off his body in waves. Leaning forward as Lance tilts his head to meet Keith's at the perfect angle. And then Keith hisses, face contorting in pain as he takes a step back, wrenching his hand away from where it had pressed against the wall. He looks at his palm, brow furrowed as the skin there smokes, and sizzles. I'm reckless but not careless, Lance says, and Keith's eyes snap to his. He smirks, a little pride bubbling in his chest. The whole room is sealed, the cop said to his side. Don't want to be known as the warlock who released a demon into the world unbound. Keith scopes. Rolling his eyes, he flexes his fingers while the pain fades. Perhaps you should bind me then, it said casually, offhandedly. But the invocation and proposal aren't lost on Lance. The light little thrill shivers down his spine. A binding is a contract for life. A powerful warlock could force a binding on a demon, but a demon only binds themselves willingly to a warlock when the warlock offers them their soul, to be the demons after their death. It's a lifeless partnership. The demon is bound to the warlock's bidding during their lifetime, and the warlock's soul is the demon's after death. Most warlocks go their whole lives only making temporary contracts rather than trade their souls, and demons rarely offer a binding mess unless the warlock's soul is too delicious to pass them. He is a prince of hell, and the fact that he's offering to be bound to lands. Perhaps he should be afraid, but instead he feels himself melting. He reaches forward, smiles simple as he hooks his claws into the collar of Lance's velvet robe. To the bed, he murmurs. Take this off. Present yourself to me. He steps back, allowing Lance to pass, smirking knowingly as he stumbles to the bed. His hands shake with excitement as he pulls on the sash tied around his waist. He holds it up, letting it fall. Then he takes hold of his robe, opening it with his back to Keith. He glances over his shoulder, eyes lit as he takes in a demon watching him, a predator watching on land. His is hard and heavy between his legs, swelling and leaking. Slowly, purposely, Lance lets the rope slide over his shoulders, down his arms, draped low on his bed before he finally releases it and lets it fall on the floor at his feet. Heat shifts, a low growl resonating deep in his throat. The air is cool against his skin as he leans forward, crawling onto the bed on his hands and knees. He shivers and spreads his legs wide, arching his back, swollen thickly as his hole, slick and cool with oil, clenches around nothing. Heat is there in an instant, a surge of heat rolling over him as he presses up against Lance from behind. His heavy and thick as it rests between his cheeks. His hands hot to the touch as they run all over his body. His hips, up his sides, back down to grip his butt, spreading him wide. Before running up the length of his spine, curved into a pretty arc just for him, to the back of his neck to push his shoulders down to the bed. His touch is warm, rough, and oddly gentle, like he's caught between tearing Lance apart and treasuring him like something precious. It's overwhelming, and Lance melts beneath it, body shaking and breath shuddering out past parted lips. You prepare yourself for me, he hums appreciatively, hands spreading Lance's cheeks and thumbs gently pushing at his hole. Lance breath hitches, but he manages a fair amount of sadness as he says, yeah, well, you asked for the same thing. You'll like it, he says, smug confident, as he falls to his knees behind Lance. His breath goes over Lance's hole as his hands keep him spread. You'll like it because I ask it of you. His retort is eyes on his tongue, choked by a Keith's long, forked tongue slides over his hole, hot and wet. He devours Lance, taking his time to pick Lance apart, piece by piece, using that devilish tongue of his exactly the way he knows Lance loves. In all the ways he's learned over the years to make him melt and crumble, tasting him, delighting in him, humming contentedly as he slips it as deep as it can go. Strong hands hold Lance's hips still as the rest of his body writhes and thrashes against his bed. Hands curl in the sheets, head bent back and cries torn from his throat. He takes a bottle of oil he knows Lance keeps on the bedside table, uses it to cover him, slick him up, pushes his fingers deep inside to test the stretch, humming and satisfied with the job Lance had done on his own. Eager, weren't you? He says, as he gets to his feet. Lance squeezes his eyes shut, half collapsed in the bed as he tries to catch his breath, both grateful for the respite and eager for more. A shame. I enjoy preparing you. The bed dips next to him, and his hands are on his waist. Keith listens effortlessly, and Lance's heart skips. Heat's pulling low and clenching. He loves how exactly Keith can move him, pick him up, carry him, position him exactly how he wants. And that's exactly what he does. He sits on the bed, leaning against the wall and spreading his wings to either side. He pulls Lance into his lap, guiding his thighs to straddle his hips, dazed but eager. Lance says easily, adjusting until Keith's pressed against him. Low on the curve of his butt, he sets his palms to Keith's chest, leaning forward to crowd his face. Here, like this, nestle in his lap. Lance finally has some height, and Keith looks so pretty with his head tilted back to look up at him. Holding that beautiful violet gaze, darkening with hunger and demonic desire, Lance rises up on his knees, reaching behind to take a hold of Keith's. It's a large thing, far larger than his own, tempered at the tip and ribbed along the underside, flush purple and leaking hot, sticky. Keith's hands are large and warm on Lance's hips, and the tips of his claws bite into soft flesh as Lance passes the tip of his past his rim. The soft, sharp intake of breath is music to his ears. He tosses his head back, letting out a long, low groan as he takes Keith slowly, sinking inch by inch, putting on the show that he knows Keith appreciates. Because the session doesn't go just one way, he may be the only demon Lance has ever summoned, but Lance is the only warlock that Keith has ever cared to answer. They both dig to this, to the simple delight of being joined, to the thrill that rushes through their veins as Keith sinks his deep inside him. It's the way Lance moans and cries you feel, to the tingling pleasure of the power transfer, to the sensation of being one, of belonging to each other, of owning each other, if only for a moment. Lance sighs, pleased and content as his butt settles on Keith's lap, buried deep inside him. The stretch burns, but Lance revels in it, especially when he looks back to Keith and finds his gaze dark, lidded and fleeting. He looks absolutely lost in it, lost in Lance. How strange that a demon prince can look like a predator and a kitten all at once. Well, Lance hums, sliding his hands up Keith's bare chest, one resting on the curve of his neck, while the other slides his fingers into Keith's hair. His gentle touch, carding through silly locks, until his fingers tighten, giving a sharp tug that has Keith growling, looking up at him with fire in his eyes. Lance smirks, leaning forward to teasingly run his tongue along the seam of his lips. Take what's yours. It feels Keith smirk for just a moment before he surges forward, capturing his lips, their kisses heated and filthy, tongues and teeth merciless in taking what they want. Yet, despite their desperation, they move together, familiar in the push and pull, the give and take. They find a rhythm easily falling into it. The ease at which it happens adds a little gentleness to the messy kiss that has Lance's heart squeezing. Strong hands hold his hips tight, lifting them up. You can feel every rib Keith's slide past his room, pulling him off until he is nearly empty, before pulling him back down as his hips snap up to meet him. His moan is ragged with shouts, and Keith swallows it down. And just like their kiss, they quickly fall into a rhythm. Even in this, they work together, forming a symbiotic pace. Lance rises up on his knees, moving as his hips as he's learned to do throughout the years, and Keith's hands are there, his strength supporting and holding Lance's weight so his legs never tire, so they can keep going, so it can take Keith's deep and quick the way they both like. One of his arms wraps around Keith's broad shoulders, blunt nails biting heated flesh. The other slides through his hair to curl his fingers around the base of one horn and hold on tight. Finds leverage and grounds himself, clinging to Keith as he rides in it. The stretch is pleasant. The ribbing of his Lance shaking. Keith's large and hot, filling and burning Lance from the inside out. He can feel it stiffening, swelling, pulsing inside. Sweat beads on his skin, though he remains dry. He doesn't, however, seem to mind. Leaning forward to run along, forked tongue up the length of Lance's neck and beneath his jaw, tasting the saltiness on his flesh. Lance can no longer keep up with her kiss, lips parted and panting, moaning with every thrust, eyes squeezed shut and brows furrowed. Keith takes to sucking on his neck, nipping and sinking his bangs into sensitive areas so Lance's throat is littered with marks that he'll be proud of but have to hide all the same. You're so beautiful, he whispers, Boy's horse against Lance's throat. Lance clenches around him, back arching as it preens at the brakes. He put the flames of hell to shame. His hands tighten at Lance's hips, his tail flicking forward to Rattlesnake thigh. You're mine. His hand releases Keith's horn, sliding down, indulging as he traces his fingertips along the sharp contours of her face, until his long finger wrapped around Keith's throat, palm against the front. Fingers tucked just below his jaw. He uses on the leverage to light Keith's chin, but Keith is already tilting his head back with him, eyes burning as their gaze lock. Challenging, possessive, hungry. Lance leans forward to capture his lips in a slow, deep, languid kiss, and Keith opens for him, allowing Lance to take control of the clay in his mouth. Their pace slows with it. Lance's hips moving in deep, slow circles. He can feel the moans start in Keith's throat. He can taste it on his tongue, somewhere against his lips, when claws bite into the flesh of his hips. He can feel it then. The transfer of power. It tastes like sulfur and burns like fire. He feels the heat of it against his palm as it rises up Keith's throat. His sides past his lips, tingling against his tongue as Lance gnaws it down. He breathes Keith in, his essence, his magic, his power, giving willingly, eagerly, in exchange for this, Lance. He feels the spark and crackle where it settles in his chest, energy eager to be spent and restless being idle. He feels the power seeping through his veins like molten flames. He loves this, craves this, the sensation of strength, of Keith, the prince of hell, making him strong. He pulls back far enough to meet his gaze, tilting Keith's head back to the side, with the hand around his throat, just because he can. Tighten his fingers just to hear the pleased little gasp leave Keith's lips. You look so pretty with my collar around your throat. Keith snaps up, pulling a soft moan for Lance. One of his hands moves to Lance's lower back, holding him still while the other wraps heat fingers around his maw, and sure as his hips continue to snap upward, Buzz lands on his and forcing him to hold on. Beneath him, Keith smirks, fangs glinting in the candlelight, eyes dark and lit as he growls. And you look so good with my name seared across your soul. Lance with a cry, hand tightening around Keith's throat. He hears the low groan, feels sporadic thrust as Keith then buries himself deep and with him, filling him with heat. Lance moves his hips in slow circles as he rises up, humming contentedly. Heat hazy in a state of bliss. His hand slips away from Keith's throat, sliding through his hair and nearly carding through it. Meanwhile, Keith puts him closer, presses them tight while he nuzzles against Lance's neck, and Lance rests his head against one of his horns. For now, they bask in the afterglow. They being pressed together and joined. Soon, he will have to return, now that the contract is fulfilled, but for now, they'll hold each other. And one day, Keith won't have to leave at all, because one day, this little game of theirs will come to an end. This little song and dance, cat and mouse, one day, soon, if he's being honest, he'll find Keith. Keith will be his, and he will be Keith's. It's been inevitable since the day Lance realized that he'll never summon another demon. So why deal with summoning him at all, when he can just keep Keith at his side? After all, better the devil. Alright, that is the end of that NSFW thing. And boy, do we have so many things that we're scrolling down. Well, it has been a blast since this NSFW has been playing through, and I can't go any further for this. But wow, yep, Warlock is having. Can I say sex for this video? No? Okay. I think the Warlock is making love with the demons. So, yep, that's good for one to touch this substance to hell, and that's, yeah, it's very hot if you know what I mean. I got you. I got you. Alright, I guess it's time for me to end this video, and I'll see you next time with a regular fic, as always. Alright, guys. Bye.